All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Crude Show from Levi's Stadium after training camp. Practice number 8 is officially in the books to talk about everything that happened down here in Santa Clara on this windy Friday. Beautiful day here in Santa Clara. 49ers had a nice practice. There was some news earlier today. Curtis Robinson passed his physical. Niners pulled him off the PUP list. So he's been on that physically unable to perform list. He had the offseason surgery on the knee, or it's the Achilles. I forget. It's the Achilles or the knee. But Robinson is making his way back. He passed his physical, and so he's back. Contending for a roster spot. So good luck to Curtis as he tries to earn a roster spot this year. Looking at some of the one-on-ones from the D linemen, C.J. West just continues to dominate in the one-on-ones. He bull rushed Nick Zakel. He continued to win reps, all one-on-ones. He beat Drew Moss pretty badly in a one-on-one. Sebastian Valdez also continuing to play amazing football in some of these one-on-ones. He also worked Drew Moss and beat Zach Johnson. Valdez, at least in the one-on-ones, is looking really, really good. Alfred Collins. Let's talk about Collins for a second. He's big and he's strong and he struggles to get off blocks. He just doesn't get off blocks. He comes out of his stance and he does whatever he's going to do, and then he just gets wired to the blocker. And there were several reps today where Chris Kasarik is pleading with him. Albert, keep going. And he does his initial move, and then he's just wired. He's just wired to the blocker, and he can't get away. I saw him a little bit later in practice have one rep where he kept going and worked himself free, but it's not natural. It's not natural for him, and he missed all of OTAs, and he's behind, and it's pretty clear. There were a number of interesting, plays today made at practice. Upton Stout had a real nice play against the run. Evan Anderson made a really good play against the run. Darrell Luter made a really nice play against the run. I thought maybe the hit of the day went to Nick Martin, who had a great hit on the running back Amir Abdullah. And Martin just looks really good. I mean, Winters and Martin are probably the best battle right now is Winters against Martin for that starting linebacker spot next to Fred Warner. And I say that because they both look amazing. Winters is flying around, making plays, looking great. And then Martin is, a rookie, but he looks fantastic. And, it's not live. They're tagging off on the running back. But, man, when I'm watching on the binoculars, Martin is showing up at the football a lot. And it's not necessarily being called out. It's not necessarily even being noticed. But if you watch up close, you can see Nick Martin is arriving at the football a ton. A couple negatives today. As I mentioned, Alfred Collins couldn't get off a block, really struggles to get off blocks. Amir Abdullah had a fumble. And I was looking at his fumble numbers in the NFL. He's fumbled kind of a lot. I mean, that's a concern. The fastest way to get cut in the NFL as a running back is to put the ball on the carpet. If you fumble, you get cut. Amir Abdullah fumbled today. Those were really the only things that were overwhelmingly negative. Mikael Williams is still being bothered by that ankle injury. He had a couple of reps where after the end of the rep, he's reaching down, he's wincing, he's grabbing that ankle. This ankle injury bothered him almost all of last year, and it's going to be interesting to see if he's got the pain threshold to be able to withstand the pain that whatever pain he's feeling in that ankle. But clearly that ankle is still bothering him, and I'm not sure to what degree. We saw Mac Jones hook up with Gage, the veteran. Really nice pass from Jones. Jones looks great. Jones is completing about 80% of his passes out here. The ball is coming out on time and with accuracy, and a lot of times with touch. He talked about after practice today about how he really focuses on playing on time. And that's really a key element for him. And if he's playing on time with a guy as smart as he is, who processes as well as he does, if he plays on time, he's going to have success. And he has played on time all week in this Snyder offense. He looks great. And we'll talk more about Mac here in a minute. We saw Eli Apple have a nice PBU today. The veteran corner got involved. Corey Kiner, with the injury to Jordan James, Kiner's getting more run. He had a long run today and really looks good. Corey Kiner just continues to look good day after day after day. I'd be very surprised if Kiner doesn't look good when the games start. Purdy threw an amazing fade to Juszczyk that was deep over deep winters and completed it from the hook to be a touchdown. Very impressive throw by Purdy. Purdy's looking fantastic in this camp. The arm strength, the knowledge of the offense, everything is just, he's progressing every single day. He knows this offense a little bit better every single day. He's also getting in lockstep with these receivers, both young and old. We'll talk more about that in a second. After practice, we had a chance to talk to Robert Salah. Salah said very definitively that number 3 cornerback job is wide open. So Demo and Renardo are 1 and 2. Number 3 is probably Upton Stout, but it sounds like it's wide open. And there's a bunch of guys that I would say are all in competition for it, but I thought that was interesting. Salah is not handing the 3rd cornerback spot to the rookie Upton Stout at all. In fact, he's basically just said, hey, look, we're auditioning for that spot. And, bottom line is it's wide open. So wide open 3rd cornerback spot, according to Robert Salah. He was asked about CJ West. He said, man, the guy's getting better every day. He was asked about Nick Bosa, and he said, man, Nick Bosa was a rare rookie. He was just very advanced, very, very rare as far as how advanced he was when he stepped into the league. I asked him about Sebastian Valdez and how good he looks, and it's funny. It's I think there's part of Salah that may not believe that Sebastian Valdez is as good as he has looked. And I understand that because he's an undrafted player, but he has dominated a lot of these one-on-ones. And I mentioned it to Robert today, and he said, hey, you know what? Let's see when Denver rolls in here. When Denver comes in, and it's not us against us. We're practicing against a different team. He's like, I think at that point we're going to find out, quote-unquote, what's real and what's not. So, it sounds like maybe there's some doubt that Valdez is going to be as good as he has shown once the Niners start playing other teams. That will be something to watch. Robert was asked about Jair Brown, who told us yesterday that he goes into quarterback meetings to try to understand the mindset of the quarterback. And, Robert said that, Kyle Shanahan is great at giving the players kind of more of a football overview. So they're not just in a trench doing their task, that they have some kind of overall understanding of the greater goal from within, the team goal. I thought that was interesting. That Shanahan's really good at kind of showing these guys not just the play and their specific what they need to do, but a little bit more of the big picture. And I think that definitely helps players develop when they know when they can kind of see themselves in that big picture. Salah went on to say that he thinks Brock Purdy's a damn good quarterback. He said he layers the ball as well as any quarterback in the NFL. We asked him about Alfred Collins. He said he's coming along. He said, man, he missed the OTAs. He's behind the 8 ball, but we think he's got good feet and a lot of potential. Then we had a chance to talk to Mac Jones, and Mac Jones said he's getting comfortable. He says, man, it's a work in progress. I'm getting better day by day. Then Mac told us that he took 10 practice plays home, or 10 whole practices home, and puts on pads in Florida and runs the plays. He said he likes to throw in pads, so he puts on pads and he went out in Florida, got 10 practice examples, and basically just went through entire practices and ran the plays in pads in the state of Florida. I can only imagine the humidity and all the conditions out there while he was doing this, but that was interesting. He was asked, what is your biggest adjustment, now that you're a 49er? And he's like, I just got to focus on the process. He was asked about his foot speed. Like, hey, Mac, you've been running out there. And he's like, everyone thinks I'm really slow. He says, he joked with us so that he kind of looks like Forrest Gump. I mentioned to Mac that Ricky Pearsall told us yesterday that Mac was hilarious. And he's like, hey, man, you play football, and I'm just trying to keep it loose in the huddle, and I like to have a good time. And, Mac Jones seems like a pretty fun-loving guy, to be honest. He was asked about Kyle Shanahan. He said, Kyle's awesome. It's good to learn from him. He said his goal as a quarterback is just to play on time. And that's really key for him. If the ball comes out on time, with as well as he processes, he's going to have a lot of success. He was asked about confidence, if his confidence wavered. And he's like, all players' confidence wavers at one point or another. But he went on to say that he thinks believing in himself is one of his keys to success. And he said he did notice how Sam Darnold's tenure went here in San Francisco. And that was one of the reasons he wanted to come here, because he saw that Sam improved in this offense. I asked him about communication with his receivers and how that process gets done. And he's like, it's a daily thing. It's an everyday thing. It's like, Max said, I asked them a lot of questions after every rep, but he goes, it might be in the hallway. It might be we're watching film. It might be in the lunchroom. He's like, anytime's a good time for a receiver and a quarterback to communicate about route running and getting on the same page. Mac also went on to say he thought D. Winters has looked really good in this camp, and he's making a lot of plays. And then we got a chance to talk to Brock Purdy. And immediately, this is the first time we talked to Brock since he had his baby girl, Millie Jolene Purdy. And Brock came out and he said, man, it's been awesome having baby Millie. He said there's nothing better getting to hold her after practice. And you can just see he's in his glory right now. And I asked him, I said, hey, man, it's kind of cool. Like, a lot of you guys are going to have kids at the same time. And, that means that those kids, if you guys remain friends, are going to grow up together. And it's kind of a cool thing. And he said, yeah, Christian and I have discussed that, in the past, that how cool it would be to have kids at the same time and for our kids to be friends and grow up around each other. So that was kind of a cool thing to talk about today. Brock was asked, is there anybody in the locker room that's given him a good advice? And he said, Thomas Morstead, the veteran punter. He says he's got 5 kids and he's helped Brock considerably this week. The guys asked if Millie was named after anybody, and he said, yeah, she's kind of named after her grandmother, who had a name that was similar to Millie, but not nearly as good a name, I guess. And Brock and Jenna decided to go with Millie. Brock, was asked about Ricky Pearsall, and he kind of admitted that last year Ricky was really raw. But this year that he's made strides. He was asked about Mac Jones, and he said, Mac's doing great. He said he said he studies really hard, and he's very detailed. So that's a good thing. I mean, life is about the details, and quarterback play in the NFL is even more about the details. So it's good to hear that. I asked Brock about the veteran receivers. He's got now DeMarcus Robinson and Russell Gage. And I said, how valuable is it to have a couple vets like that? Vet receivers will go get it for you. And Brock's like, it's huge. He said they're very detailed in what they do, and they set a great example of the younger receivers. Then he was asked about Garendo, and he said, man, he's doing a great job. He's definitely taken it to another level this year. He's expecting a big year out of Garendo. And he mentioned that Garendo can really catch the football. And then he was asked about Jordan Watkins, and he said, man, this guy has a really good and a really high football IQ. And Brock said, hey, man, Jordan's shown flashes. And obviously they need more than that from Watkins, but he's really encouraged that Watkins is such a smart player and that he's already showing glimpses and flashes of greatness on the practice field. So there you go. There's a breakdown of everything that happened here on a Friday in Santa Clara. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.